Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to be showing you how the most efficient way that I have found to date to repair and replace some rotted subfloor. Stick around and see how we do it. Okay, so here's what we got going on. All along this whole wall, it's mainly right here at the corner of the door, and then at the corner of the door over here, which is not so bad, but it is rotted. Okay, so first thing is first, I want to make sure that I come over far enough this direction away from the wall to where I don't have any rot left. And from what I can see, this right here looks like it's going to be about the furthest point. So I want to come at least, there's a little hump swelled up just a little bit right there. So I'm going to come about right there. Let's see what we got. If that's going to be, that's perfect. Okay. So let's see what this is. I want to try to make this where a sheet of plywood will do this. So I want it 2 foot. So I want to do about 23 inches. Just going to put me about right there. Okay, so next thing is next. I'm going to take, depends I know how far out on the edge over there I'm going to come. I'm going to take my little, it's a Makita osculating tool, and I'm going to cut all the way around the perimeter of this cut up next to the wall. I use this for that because I can get right next to the wall. Versus if you use a regular circular saw or a regular skill saw, you're going to be an inch or so away from the wall, and as far as getting in the corners, you're just going to be out as far as getting in the corners with the skill saw. This you can cut flush off with the wall. You can actually bow it in just a little bit like that, and it'll actually cut at an angle under the wall. So this is by far the best tool for cutting out subfloor. So I'm just going to go ahead and start my cutting. Okay, so right here, if you'll notice, my saw is a little bit jacked up. What I did is I set the height of my saw to the thickness of my board. That way I would not cut through to the floor joists. And then I proceeded to cut across the line that I made with my straight edge. Okay, so as always, the skill saw will only get so close before it hits the wall. So I need to take my little osculating tool, once again, finish this cut up through there. Okay, so right here is where I stopped my cut, and there is a floor joist about right here somewhere, and I can see the staple marks, but I don't know where dead center to that is, so therefore I don't know where the edge of that is. So what I'm going to do to find the dead right on the edge of that is, I'm going to go ahead and just break this, put me a hole in it right there, and then I can cut me, just take my knife and cut a little flat spot so I can have something to measure to, and then I'll stick my tape measure under there and make sure. Okay. Okay, so since I got my flat point right here where I cut it, I can measure over, and I got me a nice accurate point right there, which is 5 inches to the edge of that. Okay, so I'm just lining my cut that I did right here, push it over to my mark here, and go for it right there. That should be right on the side of my joist. Like I said, if it's off a little bit, I do have my blade set to the right depth so that I'm not going to destroy the joist if I do happen to be over a little bit too far. Okay. Now with that all marked out, I'm going to go ahead and cut this right to the side of my joist. Just as I did on the other end, I'm going to finish my cut with my little osculating tool. So now that I've got my rip here and it's cut all the way around the edges and stuff like that, the floor joists is cut all the way through on them. Now the last thing I want to do right before I take it up is go ahead and take these pieces that's cut. They're 4 foot wide. I'm going to go ahead and split them in half, and that will give me 2 foot pieces to deal with rather than cutting with or trying to take up great big pieces. Now we got all of our cuts made, time to tear up. This is the tools that I use to tear this out with. I have a small pry bar, I have a bigger pry bar, I have a pair of towel snips that I actually use for nail biters that pulls the staples out of the subfloor here if I need to, and a chisel to knock some big chunks off of the floor joist that stick from being glued. So it's all cut and everything, so I just want to grab a hold of it and start pulling stuff up. I buy the metal / wood bits or blades for this right here, and this allows me just to cut right through staples and everything, so I can cut right flat along the edge of the joist right there. Right now we want to get them cleaned up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get all this stuff cleaned up, and then we'll go on to the next phase. So I'm going to stick it right there, and again it's pushed all the way back, so I'm going to put me a mark right there on top of that, and that's dead center where I want to put my bottom brace. My brace is right center of that mark right there. I'm going to do the same thing right here. Now mark right there, okay? So while I was outside, I marked the one that was smaller. So I'm going to just stick it down there, and I'm going to make sure to get my brace centered of that mark. Same thing on this end. I want to make sure it's centered right there and right there. And then I can go ahead and want to get this square. It is important that you get this box made square. So the reason why I didn't just bring my board all the way, the reason why I didn't bring this all the way to the end, I want to try to take my brace in that way, at least an inch or so. It's going to prevent this board from splitting. If I nail it right here on the end, centered of this, if it was all the way over, say if it had this flush out like that, when I nail right here and right here, it's going to split this board and it's going to lose strength. So I want to bring it in as much as possible. That's the whole point of scooting that in away from the end a little bit. Otherwise you could just make a regular square box and be okay. But with that being said, I got that centered there now. I'll go ahead and put me a couple nails in it. Okay. Go ahead and flip this right over. And if you'll see there, we don't have any cracks. It didn't split the wood because I was able to get that far away from the edge. So once again, just want to square everything up. And looks pretty good right there. Okay. Now that I got that done. Okay, so now that I got this end put together, I'm going to measure from my mark down this way, and I want my next brace to be just on the outside of this wall right here. So therefore my board, my subfloor can set right down on top of it. So I'm going to measure from that to my subfloor right here, which is 21 1/4, and I will measure from my mark because that's where it was, and I'll just go 21's gonna be good enough. It ain't gotta be all the way up there perfectly to the edge there, because it ain't gonna hurt if it's not really close there. So I'm gonna go 21 right here. Okay. There we go. Okay. Now that I got that put together, I can hope it fits. There we go. That's exactly that looks. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay. So, there we go. I just want to get this level with the top of my next joist right there. I'm going to pull it all the way up to the top where it touches right here, and then I'll push this down, get it level with the top of my joist. Now, I only want to put 2 nails in it, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Pull it all the way up, make sure it's up good. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay, that's perfect. So what I did to make sure that that was level, I got it on the joist, touching. That way all of those are completely level with one another. That's why I was struggling trying to get that pushed down there. But anyway, that's exactly what we wanted right there. That works out good. So once again, I only did 4 nails just for the fact that I think if you're doing something with a floor that gets a lot of walked on and movement, it needs to have screws in it versus nails. So that's why I only did 4 nails, 1 in each corner to get it squared up. And my actual stability is going to come from these screws right here. A little close there, it was mashing my finger. And I am using a 3-inch 10 gauge star head. That's the type of screws I'm using, and they are deck screws, so they got a coating on them just to keep them strong, keep them from rusting out or anything. Okay. Come on. Okay. Okay, so if you'll notice what I'm doing right here, I'm actually marking out my joists. That way, whenever I get my plywood down, I know right where to screw at, because I will no longer be able to see my joists because they'll be covered up with the plywood. So I went through and marked all of my joists on the existing plywood, and I'm just making sure again that there's nothing under it that's going to make it squeak or creak or anything. And right here, because this is such an old mobile, I think it was like a late 70s or early 80s mobile home, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff that was straight in this place. So what I do, I draw me out a diagram, if you can see me drawing out right there, and then I just take my measurements and trace it over onto the board. That way I have an exact picture of what I need to cut and to allow for any bowing in the walls or anything like that. I have it measured out perfectly so that whenever I cut it, I can bring it back in and it'll fall right directly in place, rather than just taking say 26 or 23 and cutting 23 inches all the way down, because there's a good chance, as a matter of fact it was in this house here, the walls were really bowed out and stuff like that. And right there, what I just did, I had to make sure that my seam in my plywood that I'm fixing to install fell centered of one of my braces right there, so that both pieces, the one I'm working on now and the next one, will be able to fall center of the joist. And there I am allowing for my door or my wall right here. It actually steps out from the door, so that gives me a triangle. There it is, all drawn and measured out, ready to go cut. Okay, so here I come with the plywood, and as you can see, it is notched on both sides. That's the reason why it was easier for me to draw a little diagram and get it all in one cut, rather than running back and forth making multiple cuts on my piece of plywood. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am actually going to mark out my board on the back side where the braces that run across the back of the door. Once I put my plywood in position, I'll know exactly where I need to screw that piece of plywood down, and the screws will go into my braces rather than missing them and it not having any support. So I actually take my board and mark it out, put me a line with my straight edge, and that way I can screw right directly into all the braces without missing any of the braces, and the floor stays nice and strong. Just double checking myself. It don't never hurt to double check. It's always actually better to double check. Okay, everything is good. Fine tuning my straight edge. Now I'm going to put my mark and slide my board into position, and it'll be ready to screw down. Okay, so moment of truth. Here we go. This is going to tell if we had all our measurements and markings right. With any luck, we'll have this right on the first try. Keep your fingers crossed. Perfect. Looks like it done just great. Needs just a little bit of boom. There it went. Fell right into position. That was perfect. As you can see, it went right underneath the wall just a little bit. Everything worked out great. Time to screw it off. Okay, and as you noticed earlier, I pointed out that I marked all of my joists on my existing floor that was already there, so now I can measure from the end of my new board that I just placed into position, and measure from the end of that to my mark that I have on my floor, and then measure on the opposite side of my board and get my marks. As you can see right there what I'm doing, and I got 2 of them at that time, and just continue to measure from the end of the board to my mark, and then transfer that mark up there to the opposite side of the board, and then I will be able to get me a straight line, and that's where I will run my screws to ensure that I hit the joists or my braces with every single screw, and I don't have to worry about missing it. So now I just take and line my 2 marks up, the one on the existing floor and the one that I put on my board. Give me a line to go by. So anytime I'm dealing with screws or anything like that and I have to do a bunch of them, I will always take and get them set with my hammer, just as you see me doing there, rather than trying to start it with the drill as I'm drilling it in. I'll tap it a couple times, maybe sink it in there, maybe a 1/4 of an inch, and that allows the screw to go ahead and get a good bite. So whenever I put my drill on it, it's not going to try to fall sideways or anything like that. I will always do that anytime I have a lot of screwing to do, and that just makes the process go a lot smoother, a lot faster. So I will actually go and preset every single one of my nails just like this. Okay, and as you can see here, now that I have all of my screws preset, you can see the tremendous amount of efficiency, how fast it is. My screws are not trying to fall over or anything like that. I can just go bam, bam, bam from one screw to the next. And what I did right there, I actually sunk it too far. I don't like to sink my screws more than halfway through the board because it loses strength. I like to just barely get my head of the screw countersunk into the wood. So if I do accidentally sink it too deep, I'm going to back it out and scoot over and go to the next one and just put another one in beside where that one was. Here we are again. Just wanted to show the efficiency and how much better it is to go ahead and set your screws, such as I do with the hammer. And look, it's just so fast. You're not fumbling with them falling over and getting started and stuff like that. So this is highly efficient way to do that. Again, rather than just taking and trying to hold them with your finger and get them started with your drill like that, this is just so much faster. There, I sunk it too deep again, so I scooted the screw over to maximize the strength of the screw. And this is the last thing that needs to be done, and this subfloor repair will be completed. What I'm doing now, I'm actually taking and fastening the existing floor down to the braces that I have stuck underneath the edge of it, so that the existing floor is screwed into the bracing and is just as strong as the floor that I put down. It's going to be all connected and all nice and solid. Even though it is a particle board or the kind of wood that they put in the mobile homes, naturally it's not going to be as strong as the 3/4 inch plywood that I put down, but it is going to be fastened off on all the edges, all the seams that connects to my new floor that I put in, and it's going to be just incredibly strong because it is fastened to the braces that we stuck in ourselves. You can see the whole thing here, and it is definitely all good and solid. So kind of hard to work with that bunch of light coming in the back door, but you can hear that. Sounds really good and solid. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and FBSB is out. And if you look right there, this is the proud owner of this lovely home we've been working on all week. This is Angelina Jolie. So, thank you, Christine, for allowing us.
TV land, I will not do any autographs. I won't do it.
Thank you for allowing us to video in your home.
You're welcome.